Welcome back to another Evolution video. My name is Fiber and today we're going through the evolution of Final Fantasy XIV. Before we get into the video, let me know down in the comments if you've ever played this game and your overall thoughts on it. Final Fantasy XIV is of course the 14th installment of the Final Fantasy series, with each installment bringing around a new story. Well, the story of Final Fantasy XIV doesn't even exist anymore. Unlike most popular video games, there's no way of playing the original Final Fantasy XIV. It was covered up. The story of Final Fantasy XIV is quite interesting. Where once stood a game that could have tarnished the game's reputation forever, is now the second most subscribed MMO in the world. But how did we get here? From a complete failure in 2010 to one of the most popular games in 2012. Well, Final Fantasy XIV is an MMORPG developed and published by Square Enix. The game focuses on quests and teaming up with your friends in order to fight off monsters and level up your own fully customizable character. To talk about the evolution of Final Fantasy XIV, we need to look at another game that was launched 8 years earlier in 2002. Final Fantasy XI. This was Square Enix's first ever attempt at an MMO, and needless to say it was a huge success, being released on PC, PS2 and Xbox 360, which was treated as impossible at the time. The game established a concurrent user base of around 250,000 players for quite a while. It was the most profitable Final Fantasy game to be released ever. Of course, on seeing all of this profit and positive feedback, the developers decided to create a sequel in late 2004. Oh, well, that didn't go so well, did the original Final Fantasy XIV, Final Fantasy XIV Online, or what players like to call it, the Legacy, began development all the way back in 2004. A few months later, they released a tech demo for the game at E3 2005, but under the name Rapture, so no one knew that it was for a new up-and-coming MMO. Of course, it didn't take that long to make because they have like 13 other games. Honestly, I'm just surprised on how long this game series has been going on and how much longer it will. Over time, they just kept on developing this new MMO, trying to make what made Final Fantasy XI good even better in this new game. Everyone individually was doing a great job in developing the game, but when it came to putting the pieces together, that's where everything began to fall apart. They had announced the game's release in 2009 and had started taking beta applications on December 16th of that same year. Time was running out. Due to some bad optimizations, the game became laggy and ended up slowing down the servers. Graphics were inconsistent, the battle system, the UI, the whole game was just confusing and there was not enough content. The closed betas for the game did not go well. I mean, what do you think would happen when you have all of these problems? They even pushed the open beta back to just a month before the game's full launch so they could fix more things. I mean, the devs tried their hardest to fix the problems and were hoping that if any other problems would come, they could be fixed in smaller patches, essentially saying, F it, let's see what happens. Final Fantasy XIV Online was officially launched on the 30th of September 2010. Players were still of course excited for the game and it sold pretty well in its first week, and after like a month it had 600,000 players joining the game. But it didn't take long for the problems to arise. Server crashes, slow gameplay, let's just say there's a lot, and the game was shit. They apologized a lot, maybe even too much, but not to fear, here comes the savior, Naoki Yoshida. In late November 2010, corporate took the decision to completely remove Hiromoichi Tanaka from the team and move Nobuaki Komoto from director to lead designer, pretty much replacing two people who were in charge of the game with Naoki Yoshida. He gave everyone on the team a speech when he first joined and pretty much said, "Don't give on this game, we're still gonna work on it." To which most of them replied, Yoshida-san was a Final Fantasy fan and him working with them made him feel amazing, but what he didn't know was the scale of what he was venturing into. No matter how much they tried to patch Final Fantasy XIV Online, you could never fix it, and hence development on a new MMO began, whilst the old one was still running. Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. For the next 2 years, Yoshida-san and his team would work so hard on not just one, but 2 MMOs. They kept Final Fantasy XIV Online active and kept dishing out patches, all while secretly working on a new project. After nearly 2 years of this hard work, Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn was announced to the public. Alpha testing for A Realm Reborn commenced on November 2012, with beta testing following throughout the first half of 2013. Then finally, Square Enix reaches its redemption arc and releases the new revamped game on the 27th of August 2013. And it's all thanks to Yoshida Senpai. But Square Enix couldn't just leave their old game left on a cliffhanger and just forget about it forever. They decided to honor their still existing, small but existing community still playing the game. And the way they ended things off was probably one of the most iconic things ever in video game history. Within one of the patches, players noticed a small red dot in the sky, shining slightly brighter than the others. This was obviously a sign of things to come. With every update closer and closer to the release of the new Final Fantasy XIV, the red dot in the sky would also end up getting closer and closer to the world. The red dot ended up being a moon, and they called the moon Dalamud. When logging into the game, the player's characters would receive nightmares in-game, obviously signifying that something bad is coming. Was the world gonna be destroyed? What was gonna happen to their progress? They have so many questions, but all of this would be answered soon. Another trailer was released, and it was one of the most epic trailers for a game I have ever seen. I didn't even play the game and I got shivers and nearly teared up. Like, imagine how a person who has actually played the game would feel seeing that the whole world they've been grinding hours for is being completely destroyed. It's not even just about the game, it's about the dev team, and it pretty much represents what they've been through. The whole world getting destroyed is pretty much the entire community dogging on their game. The trailer ends with the main warriors being teleported away, whilst the rest of the world crumbles away from the final attack from the moon, which somehow became a dragon. They officially shut down Final Fantasy XIV Online and open Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn. All of the players from Final Fantasy XIV Online would receive this game for free, and players that had a subscription for 3 months or more would receive a permanent discount on their new subscription. Furthermore, all progress from old characters would completely transfer over to the new ones. It just proves that they care more about the community than just making money. Props to Square Enix for that one. Actually, props to Yoshida Senpai for managing to do all of this. The game pretty much did a whole 360 on itself, and compared to 2 years earlier, the review and critics were so positive about the game. It was almost like a fresh off breath air. Wait, the fuck? Man, I'm tired. It was almost like a breath of fresh air for the company. The servers actually got so packed that people couldn't even play the game they bought. Square Enix had to suspend digital sales of the game because too many people were playing it. That was how successful the game was. After the release of Realm of the Reborn, the team applied the same content-rich patching schedule that they had undertaken with the legacy of the game, releasing a significant patch every 3 to 4 months. Over the next 2 years, these patches progressed the story of the game, added raids, new modes such as 72-player PvP battles. Just like before, while the team was working on these patches, they were concurrently building an updated version of the game, leading us over to the first expansion pack, Heavensward, released on June 23rd, 2015. The main features are an increase of the level cap to level 60, an introduction of new zones with flying gameplay, and 3 new job classes: Dark Knight, Astrologian, and Machinist. The story picks up with the player entering Ishgard, which had previously been closed to outsiders, and getting involved in the Dragonsong War, a 1,000-year conflict between Ishgard and Nidhogg's horde of dragons. The expansion also includes a range of new dungeons and raids, as well as new PvP modes and other playable races. This expansion right here helped the game reach over 5 million subscriptions. Yeah, 5 million. Let's do some math here. The price is around $10 for a monthly subscription. Times that by 5 million and you get a huge number. $50 million monthly. June 20th, 2017, and the second expansion pack, Stormblood, is released. This expansion features an increase to the level cap of 70, new dungeons and raids, new zones featuring swimming and diving gameplay, changes to the battle system, and 3 new jobs: Red Mage, Samurai, and Blue Mage. The expansion experimented with gameplay, emulating multiplayer online battle arenas, MOBAs, open world games, and high-end ultimate difficulty raids. This sadly also marks the end of the support of the game on PlayStation 3. But say saying that the game was released on PS4 for a while now, and no one really uses a PlayStation 3 anymore. July 2nd, 2019, and the game's third expansion is released, Shadowbringers. This takes players to a new dimension, the First, which is a reflection of the Source, which is the player's home dimension. Here, players are tasked with restoring darkness in a world drowning in light, as they adopt the mantle of Warrior of Darkness. The change from Warrior of Light to Warrior of Darkness looks so sexy. He has like an anime MC level up moment and completely destroys his enemy, and he low-key looks like Kirito here, not gonna lie. This expansion features a new level cap of 80, new dungeons, raids, zones, 2 new jobs, Gunbreaker and Dancer, and changes to the battle system again. This expansion debuts 2 new playable races, Viera and Hrothgar, Hrothgar, which are based on Ronzo from Final Fantasy XIV. Now jumping over to 2021, during all of this COVID crisis, Square Enix announces that Final Fantasy XV will be releasing a free trial on the 11th of August 2021 for 14 days, including the whole first expansion packed with it. This gave players an opportunity to test it. Players who were skeptical about the game can finally play it and see if it's worth their money. And let's just say this idea worked and so many more players bought the subscription. Right now the game is doing insanely well. And that's about it for the evolution of Final Fantasy XIV so far. But there is so much more to come in the near future. A brand new expansion, Endwalker, which will be released on the 23rd of November 2021. The expansion was actually meant to come out this summer but was delayed due to COVID-19. The last clip in the trailer looks so cool. My man's is legit standing on the moon looking down at Earth. But who knows what's gonna come in the new expansion. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below, and while you're at it, you may as well leave a like and share this video with a friend. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in another Evolution video.